occasionally spent her evenings. As he pushed the door open, the little bell above rang out. "Hey, Lou-Anne," Gomer said softly. Lou-Anne looked up from the counter, surprised. "The store is closed, Gomer. I did not think you were coming to buy anything." "Then why did you come?" she asked, a hint of defensive pride in her voice. "Well, it is Friday night," Gomer offered simply. "So—" "Well, we do have a standing date, usually," he replied, his voice tinged with hopeful innocence. "Oh, do we?" Lou-Anne replied coolly. Before the conversation could go any further, a loud, booming voice echoed from the back of the shop. "Hi there. Anybody home?" Monroe E. Ford stepped into the light, dressed in a sharp, flashy suit. His face stretched into a wide, confident grin. "Oh, hey, Monroe," Gomer said, his heart sinking into his boots. Monroe walked right up to Lou and, beaming, "Man, oh man, if you do not look as young as ever and twice as pretty." He turned his attention to Gomer, clapping him on the shoulder with unnecessary force. "Oh, Monroe, you do remember Gomer, do you not? The pride of the Marines." "How could I forget?" "Hi, buddy." Monroe laughed loudly. "Well, how are we doing this now? Am I taking us all out to dinner?" Lou-Anne looked at Gomer, an unspoken question in her eyes. "Well, that would be—" Gomer took a step back, the overwhelming urge to retreat completely taking over. His noble spirit could not bear to be the third wheel, nor did he want to intrude on Lou-Anne's freedom. "As a matter of fact, I have to get back to the base. I just stopped in to say hello is all." "Oh, well, maybe next time," Monroe said smoothly, practically pushing Gomer toward the door with his sheer presence. "Good night, Gomer," Lou-Anne said, her voice dropping, laden with a complex mix of disappointment and sorrow. "Good night," Gomer replied, stepping out into the cool evening air, feeling more alone than he ever had in his entire life. Inside the store, he heard Monroe's loud voice echo, "Boy, if you were not a sight for sore eyes." Back at the Marine Corps base, the barracks were quiet, save for the rhythmic breathing of sleeping men. Gomer sat hunched over a small wooden desk in the corner, a solitary desk lamp casting a pool of yellow light over a piece of plain white stationery. He held a pen tightly, his brow furrowed in intense concentration. Sergeant Vince Carter, a tough, battle-hardened man with a hidden soft spot for his most exasperating subordinate, walked into the room. He spotted Gomer and frowned, marching over. "Well, I thought you picked up your pass to go into town tonight," Sergeant Carter barked, crossing his arms over his broad chest. Gomer jumped slightly, looking up with wide, innocent eyes. "Oh, well, I did, Sergeant, but, well, I decided to come back early." Carter leaned over the desk, peering suspiciously at the paper. "What are you doing, Pyle?" "Oh, I was just writing a letter." "You need a dictionary to write a letter?" Carter asked, his sharp eyes catching a specific word on the page. "What is it you have underlined right there?" "Dilemma. You got a dilemma?" "Well, kind of," Gomer admitted quietly. "So, who are you writing to?" "Let me see." Carter snatched the paper before Gomer could protest. He read the opening line and let out a loud, incredulous snort. "You are writing a letter to dear Abby?" "Boy, Pyle, do you know what this is?" "This is a slap in the face. A direct insult." Gomer looked horrified. "You got me, Sergeant?" "You have a sergeant who has been with you since the very day you came into the Marine Corps. A sergeant who taught you absolutely everything you know, and yet you would rather go to a total stranger on a newspaper? Dear Abby? You would rather discuss your personal problem with Abby?" Carter's voice rose in pitch, highly offended. "You do not even know her last name, but you would rather talk to her than your friendly, loyal sergeant. Pyle, what do you think I am here for?" Gomer swallowed hard, looking genuinely contrite. "Well, I just did not want to bother you with my personal troubles, Sergeant." Carter leaned down, putting his face inches from Gomer's, his voice dripping with dramatic sincerity. "Pyle, until the day you leave the Marine Corps, until you leave my direct command, I am your mama. I am your papa. I am your big brother, and I am your dear Abby. Now, what is your dilemma? Go ahead. Tell me your dilemma. Gomer hesitated, then asked meekly, Are you absolutely sure you want to hear it, Sergeant? Sure. Come on, Pyle. Tell Sergeant Abby all about it. Gomer picked up his letter, clearing his throat. All right, you see, it all started the other night when Lewin and I were having dinner at this Chinese restaurant. And, well, here, I will just read you what I have written down so far. Dear Abby, we were just finishing our dinner at this Chinese restaurant. Well, actually, we did not finish it entirely, but we were down to the fortune cookies. And that is what really started the whole thing. Lewin's fortune said something about a loved one making a decision of a lifetime, and we began talking about that. We had promised we would not talk about that, at least until after I finished my hitch in the Marines. I just naturally had to tell Lewin exactly how I feel about her freedom, and ask her not to give up her freedom, which isn't exactly fair. Seeing how I haven't made up my mind yet about staying in the Marine Corps, I feel it would be very unfair. Carter stared at Gomer, his tough exterior softening just a fraction as he listened to the pure, unadulterated innocence of the young man's heart. It was a tangled web of overthinking, but beneath it all, Carter recognized the raw pain of a man who thought he was losing the woman he loved. Meanwhile, downtown, Monroe and Lou were walking along the quiet streets. Monroe was looking around, shaking his head in mild amazement. Yeah, you would hardly recognize the old town. Lou and supermarkets all over the place and parking meters. The town is just loaded with supermarkets and parking meters. Oh, really? Lou murmured, her mind still miles away, lingering on a tall, lanky Marine. Yeah, Lou the town has really grown, Monroe continued, oblivious to her distraction. They even got 2 laundrettes. 2 of them. Can you imagine that? Doggone it, Lou, aren't you ever coming back, really? Monroe suddenly stopped walking, looking at her intently. I do not see anything happening between you and Gomer. I beg your pardon, but I mean, are you 2 planning on getting married? I was strictly under the impression that. Lou stiffened, maintaining her composure. Well, that is a decision that we have not made as yet. Aren't you and Gomer engaged? Monroe pressed, sensing an opening. Let's just say that we have an understanding, she replied softly. But you haven't set the date yet? No. Lou stopped at the entrance of her apartment building, turning to face him. Now, if you'll excuse me, Monroe, it is getting late, and thank you for a lovely evening. Sure, Monroe smiled, tipping an imaginary hat. Good night, Lou. The next afternoon, the bright sun beat down on the military base. Sergeant Carter was walking across the parade ground when a civilian approached him. Excuse me, Sergeant, is this Company B? The man asked. Carter stopped, eyeing the flashy suit. That is right. Well, then maybe you could tell me exactly where I could find Private First Class Gomer-Pyle. Pyle? Yeah, he is right around this barracks. Much obliged, Sergeant, Monroe said, striding off toward the building. Gomer was sitting on the steps, shining his boots, when he looked up and saw the familiar face. Well, hi, Monroe. I sure did not expect to see you here. Well, I was not planning on dropping by either, Monroe said, his tone turning serious, adopting a fake demeanor of sympathy. Until last night, that is. You got a minute? Gomer set his brush down, wiping his hands on a rag. Okay, yes. Monroe sat down next to him, sighing deeply. Listen, Gomer, I figured it was only completely fair to come here and talk this thing out with you. I mean, I would sure appreciate it if someone did that for me. What are you talking about? Gomer asked, his brow wrinkling in confusion. Gomer, I do not know how it happened, but it did. Call it fate. Call it love at second sight, if you wanna. Of course, that wouldn't be exactly right. Seeing as how I never really gave up in the first place. I do not know. Maybe it was just plain luck. Monroe reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, snapping it open to reveal a diamond ring. Hey! You want to see something? This is the very ring I was hoping to give Lou